Your first commands. In this video, we're going to learn how the command line works, and to do this, we use the command page. To get to the command page, first log into your dashboard. Once there, click on the CMD icon on the left-hand side. This will bring you to the command page. First, let's take a look at the command page. The first thing to notice is that there are two main sections. The upper section shown with a yellow border is where the output of your commands will be displayed. Below this is the command line itself. This is the place where you type the commands that the JackBord will then execute. You will type your commands at this command prompt. Immediately to the left of the command prompt is the C icon. Click on this to clear the contents of the display panel. Before you can type a command at the command prompt, the cursor needs to be in the prompt. You do this by placing your mouse on the command prompt and clicking. Once you've done that, you'll notice a vertical white bar on the left-hand side. This is called the cursor. If the cursor isn't on the command line, you won't be able to type commands. What is a command? A command is simply a word or a phrase that you type into the JackBord to tell it to do something. For example, the VS command, which stands for View Status, causes the JackBord to display some status information. In order to make life easier, commands are often abbreviated. So for example, the View Status command is simply VS. The View Network command is simply VN. Many of the JackBord commands are abbreviations, so keep this in mind as you learn more, because this can help you to remember what commands are by simply remembering what they do. To summarize, a command is one or more words that instructs the JackBord to do something, and the command prompt is where you type the words or commands. Running your first command. Now it's time for you to run your first command. Put your mouse pointer in the command prompt and make sure that the cursor is there. Then type HI and press Enter. The JackBord will display a message. In this case, it's saying hello from it.meng, which is the name of this particular JackBord. This is followed by the JackBord's IP address. Notice that the command you typed appears just above the output of that command. This is because the JackBord will display the command you've just typed, and then it will display the command's output. Now, try running the VS command. This will display the JackBord's status. Type VS at the command line and press Enter. The JackBord will display some status information similar to that shown here, but keep in mind that your JackBord ID will be different to that of this JackBord. Command arguments. So far, the commands we've looked at are very simple ones, and they don't require any additional information to do their job. Some commands do need extra information. For these commands, we supply the extra information in what are called arguments, and arguments come after the command itself. The GT command is a good example of this. You can run this command by itself by simply typing GT at the command prompt and pressing Enter. When you run it, the GT command will display the current state of all of the port pins on the JackBord. But what if you just want to know the current state of the port A pins? In this case, you supply the GT command with an argument. The argument will be the letter A. This argument tells the GT command that we only want to see the port A pins. Accordingly, for the command output, as you can see, only the port A pins are displayed. Reading a voltage from port B. For this next example, we're going to use the GVR command, which stands for Get Voltage Reading, to read a voltage from port pin B1. We need to provide the GVR command with some additional information. The first thing it needs to know is the name of the pin from which we want to get the voltage reading. In our case, it will be pin B1. Next, we need to tell it what to do with the voltage reading. In this case, we want to scale it between 0 and 100. So our next two command arguments will be 0 and 100. Our final command will look like this: GVR space B1 space 0 space 100. Type this in at the command prompt and press Enter. The result of the GVR command is displayed in the top panel. In this case, it's telling us that it will take a reading from port B1, which is also channel 6, and scale it between 0 and 100. Next, type the GT-B command at the command prompt and press Enter. This will cause the JackBord to display the current state of port B1. As you can see, it's now marked as being a pot or potential divider input, which basically means it's a voltage input, and it has a value of 12. If you put your finger across port B as shown, and then run the GTB command again, you should see the values change. Run it a few times and see what happens. This is because your body is a reasonable conductor of electricity. To summarize what we've learnt so far, the JackBord is controlled with commands, and these commands are typed at the command prompt. Commands can either be singular, in which case they don't need any more information, or if a command needs more information, this additional information is provided by the command arguments. Reusing commands. In the previous example, each time you wanted to see the new values of port B, you had to retype in the command. This can be rather tedious, but there is a way around it. On the command page, if you want to reuse the previous command or go through your command history, you can do this by simply pressing the up arrow on the keyboard. Each time you press the up arrow, you'll go to the next command in your history. Once you see the command you want to run, simply press Enter. This allows you to go through your command history using the up and down arrow keys. Using the live page on port B. Another way to check the values on port B is to use the live page. You can do this by clicking on the live page link on the left-hand side. When you get there, you should be able to see the values of port B change as you move your finger. To help you learn about commands, here are some tasks to try. Turning the user LED on and off. This next command will let you turn the user LED, which is located to the right of port B, on and off. The pin that controls the user LED is pin D1. So if we want to turn the pin on, the command is D1 space 1. Type this at the command prompt and press Enter. If all is well, you should see the blue user LED turn on. To turn it off, you use the D1 space 0 command. Type that at the command prompt and press Enter. You should see the user LED turn off. This method can be used with other ports as well. All you need to do is type in the port's name and follow it by a 1 to turn it on or a 0 to turn it off. So to turn port A3 on, you would type A3 space 1 and press Enter. To turn it off, you would type A3 space 0 and Enter. The GET command. The GET command will first set a pin as an input and then get its value for you. So for example, GET space A1 will set port pin A1 as an input and then return its current value. Delays. A delay makes the JackBord wait for a specified amount of time before carrying on with the next task. These can be useful in timing things. The delay command, or the DLY command, is followed by a delay in milliseconds. You use this command to create different delays. So for example, to make a 500 millisecond or half a second delay, the command would be DLY space 500. To save some typing, there are a number of built-in standard delays. So for example, D50 will delay for 50 milliseconds, D250 will delay for quarter of a second, and so on. The table lists the delays that are available on the JackBord. The last two things that we're going to look at in this video are the toggle command and the idea of daisy chaining commands together. The toggle command. The toggle command allows you to flip the current state of a port pin. So if the pin is currently 1 and you run the toggle command on it, it will become 0 and vice versa. The toggle command is called TG, which stands for toggle, and its argument is the name of the port pin that you want to toggle. As an example, we're going to toggle the value of the user LED on port pin D1. So if you type in the command TG space D1 and press enter, if the user LED was turned on, it will now be off, and if it was off, it will now be on. This is because the job of the toggle command is to flip the current value of a port pin. Daisy chaining commands. So far, we've run one command at a time on the command line. This limits what we can do and means that we can only do one thing at a time. Daisy chaining, however, allows us to combine many commands at the same time on the command line and have them run one after the other. This is accomplished by separating each of the commands by the pipe character. The first two pipe characters in this command are indicated by the yellow arrows. On your keyboard, the key with the pipe character on it is usually located near the enter key and looks like this. In this example command, we're basically going to be flashing the user LED on and off several times. And in between each time it turns on, we put a delay of 250 milliseconds, which is the D250 command. So basically, in the one command, we're combining the D1 command and the D250 delay command. Type the command into your command prompt and run it and see what happens. As an additional exercise, try to replicate the effects of this command using the toggle command. To summarize, daisy chaining allows you to combine multiple commands in the same command line entry. Each of these commands is separated by the pipe character, and you don't need to have any spaces on either side of each pipe character. Finally, here are some tips. First of all, you can move through the previous commands that you've run using the up and down arrows on your keyboard. Secondly, commands are not case sensitive. Thirdly, the longest command that you can enter on the command line is 120 characters long. And finally, to run a command, you press the enter key. In the coming videos, we'll look in more detail at how to run commands and how they can be used to do things with your JackBord. For more information and to find more videos and get project ideas, visit www.jackbord.org.